Yeah, it's not exactly the most accessible of series to get into, is it? Hang on a second, just drink some tea. It's alright, I'm British. We depend on tea like the Americans depend on assault rifles. It's a vice. Anyway, so yeah, you bought Battletech, you think, this is great, I've got giant robots and go stamping all over shit and pew-pew lasers, but you're thinking, hang on a second, it's a lot harder than I thought it would be, and I'm getting my shit pushed in. This sucks. You're right, that's because Battletech's been going for over 30 years now, and I'm a bit of a veteran of it. I mean, I started back in 93? I first saw the cartoon, then I played Mech Warrior 2, and it's kind of been a slippery slope since then. It also means I'm quite old, so shut up. But yes, Battletech is an old franchise, and it's a well-established one. It's fantastic to get into, it really is. I do strongly recommend it, but, you know, like I said, it's not easy, and the tutorial is pretty much non-existent. It's shit. So what I want to do is, I can't help you with the campaign, because the campaign is... It's open-ended, it's open, you know, it's sandboxy. You know, you're going to have different roles, different characters, you're going to have different salvage. So, there's a lot of things that are different. But however, what I can do is I can better explain how a battle mech works, how the pilots integrate with it, and how best to go about fucking shit up on the battlefield. And I'll explain, you know, complex systems like the initiative system, managing heat, targeting shots, so on and so forth. And hopefully, you know, from this, you can walk into the campaign a bit more prepared and basically just be better. Which is what you want, it's why you're here. Alright, so, what I'll do is, I'm going to assume that you've got no experience with Battletech. You know, you saw this on Steam, or your digital distribution platform of choice, you go, oh, this looks fucking really good. And then you bought it and you suck. So, we'll go from there. Alright, let's continue. Alright, we'll cover the basics of a mech first. Oh, you know, I'm so glad I'm not playing this on a mechanical drive. I'll be here forever. However, I'm going to drink some more tea because I can. Haha. Oh, honestly, it's like heroin to us. Right. Okay. So let's have a look at the mechs. Okay. Now, a battle mech is... It's a giant robot, but there's a bit more to it than that. Each mech has 9 segments to it, but it has 11 hit locations. Bear with me on this, I'll explain. Alright. Your mech has 9 segments to it. Okay? You've got the head, the center torso, the right torso, the left torso, then you've got 2 arms and 2 legs. The center, right, and left torso have rear armor. Now, the rear armor is always weakest. Alright? So flanking shots on a mech are always best. It means you can get through the armor a lot quicker, a lot easier, and get to the goody gooey good shit on the inside. So you can start breaking mechanics and blowing up the mech. It's great. Okay. Now, mech itself, each segment consists of armor and an internal structure. Okay? You get through the armor, then you get to the internal structure. When you start damaging the internal structure, you have a chance of damaging equipment and weapons that are in that section. Like, for instance, if you get through the armor, you have a chance of hitting ammo bins, you have a chance of breaking heat sinks, shooting jump jets, or destroying weapons. And this is obviously detrimental to the mech. Now, to kill a mech, there are 3 ways of killing a mech. Cleave its fucking head off, okay, and kill the pilot. Pop the center torso, or core it. Or blow off both legs and leave it crippled, like the Black Knight from Monty Python. In fact, there are achievements based around Monty Python's Black Knights in this. It's hilarious getting them all. But yeah, basically those are the 3 ways of killing a mech. And with practice, you'll learn that every mech has a weakness, okay? And you're going to have to find what this weakness is and exploit it in order to best the enemy. At the same time, you need to learn what this weakness is so you can best protect against it. Now, mechs basically are useless without weapons, and mechs, depending upon the variance of the mech, will depend upon what hard points you've got. Like, for instance, this machine in front of me is a Hunchback 4P. Basically, it has lots and lots of lasers, so it goes pew 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 all over the place. You can see the hard points in the bottom right. Basically, it's got no ballistic, it's got 8 laser hard points, of which I'm using 7, it's got no missile, it has 3 support weapon points. Okay, now support weapons are little tiny guns. They only come into real contact when you start getting up close and personal, basically in the face of the enemy. If you punch an enemy, then you have a chance. Well, it'll automatically activate, and basically you smack the guy and then you shoot him in the face. It's a win-win. However, to be honest, I would personally pull them out and replace them with things like armor, because to begin with, when you start off, you've got to be really, really careful. You can't afford to be breaking shit. You ain't gonna have the money, you ain't gonna have the resources to keep things up and running, and it's gonna be really difficult for you to get by. Okay? Now, mechs have... Oh yeah, they also have another another hit point. Another hard point. That's the word I'm looking for. God, this is a complex game. They have another hard point called jump jets. Jump jets basically are little rockets which help it to fly. It doesn't fly around like Gigantor or Iron Man. It does enable it to jump around the battlefield. Now, jumping is a great way of getting around the terrain. It also means that you can jump out of danger, you can jump over obstacles like environmental hazards, you can jump over other mechs to get flanking shots if you wanted to. There's lots of ways of using jump jets. They're also a great way of getting out of combat and protecting vulnerable parts of your mech by pointing it in a direction that you don't want. I'll explain this as we have a skirmish. Now, mechs have another big weakness. They have heat. Enemy of a mech is heat. Okay, every time you fire a weapon, you generate heat. The more weapons you fire, the more heat you generate. There will come a point where you overheat the mech. If you overheat the mech... Now, this is different from the tabletop rendition. A lot of people have been arguing over this as to how it should be implemented, but I think this system is great for video game purposes. Basically, if you overheat the mech, you take internal structure damage to every section, okay? This is bad because you're then going to have to spend a lot of time and money repairing that internal structure. Okay, and this is really, really expensive, especially in the early parts of the game. If you keep on overheating the mech, you run the risk of shutting it down. And this is really bad because it leaves you in a state of vulnerability. Now, vulnerability allows you to have a cold shot. Basically, if the enemy is shooting at you constantly and it overheats, it'll shut down. And you have a cold shot against it. Basically, instead of just shooting at the enemy and hoping you hit something special, you can specifically, during a cold shot, point at a part of the mech and say, I want to shoot you in the face. And you will shoot it in the face. Or you say, I want to shoot you in the leg, and I'll take your leg off. Basically, all the damage you then fire is rolled specifically towards that point. There's no guarantee you're going to hit it, but there's a good chance you will. And this is great for exploiting weaknesses of a mech. Again, you'll have to learn by looking at the mechs and studying them to see how best to go about exploiting it. Alright. Let's have a look at... what else we should cover? Ah, yeah. Another weakness. Okay. I've mentioned that you can shut down through overheating, and that leaves you open to a cold shot. A cold shot can also come about if you fall over. Mechs are like giant people, you know, if you push them hard enough, they'll fall over. Depending upon a pilot's skill will depend on how well it can stay upright, depending, according to how much damage it takes. If you have a mech pilot who's really shit at piloting, he's going to trip over his own shoelaces. Now, falling over is a vulnerability. It leaves you open to a cold shot, but it does something far worse than that. It injures the pilot. Now, pilots, unlike mechs, are squishy meat bags, alright? And if you fuck around with them too much, you're going to kill the pilot, and basically you'll get the mech back and you'll have to hose the mech back, the cockpit out, with a bucket and sponge, because you're basically going to turn the guy into paste. Also as well, you're going to lose all the experience and the skills that these mech warriors bring into using the mech, and that's that's really expensive. You don't want to lose that, because you can't replace it. You'll have to get new pilots, retrain them, then they're going to be shit, they're going to be missing shots all over the place, they'll be falling over. You need to look after your pilots. Pilots are important. They're very, very valuable. If you think a pilot is in the risk of getting himself killed or the mech is going to be completely annihilated, you have the option to manually eject. Basically, you pull a nice big lever, you shout, ejecting, and basically you shoot off into the sky. It's really cool. The mech is then disabled, but you will get it back at the end of the fight. You obviously lose that mech throughout the entire fight, but you know what? I'd rather save it than have to replace it, or replace the pilot. Okay? Now, I touched upon that mechs have a weakness. Alright? It is usually what I call a loadout weakness. Now, every mech has one. Alright, some are more weaker than others. You need to assess the mech and discover where its weakness is. Alright, I'm going to show you a mech weakness with this mech. Alright, let's open up the refit page. Oh god, scary things. I know. Now, this mech has a weakness. Its weakness is the right torso. Why? You want to take the head off, you want to kill the pilot, you want to blow its legs off. Why would you want to destroy the right torso? Well, very simply, if it can't shoot you, it's fucked. So you deny its weapons, you deny its ability to fight. So if you hit the right torso and the right arm, you'll basically cripple it, and it will have nothing left to do but run around like a headless chicken on the battlefield. It may potentially run up and punch you, but it's got to run to get to you, and you can gun it down like a dog in the street. Not like I condone gunning of dogs, Jesus Christ, fuck no, but you get the idea. Basically, every mech has a vulnerability, and I find that stripping a mech's threat value is a better way of leading into killing it. Alright, simply standing there and shooting and trading pot shots at it isn't really going to help you. Learning how to exploit its weakness to better it is the benefit. Okay, right, what we'll do, let's cover... That's pretty much it for battle mechs, I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, one thing I wanted to mention as well. Alright, you've got 4 types of weapons in this: ballistic, lasers, missiles, and support. Okay, only lasers don't need ammo. Everything else does. Okay, so if you go to bolt a weapon in, you need to factor in ammunition for it as well. Like for instance, at the moment, I don't need ammunition for this mech because, well, it doesn't have anything that can use ammo. Alright, if I skip back and have a look at my C9A, go into refit, you can see that this mech is very different. It has LRMs, it's got a medium laser, and it's got an AC-10, which means it has ammunition. Now, where would be the weakness of this mech? Well, automatically it would be the part which contains the ammunition. You get through to the internal structure of that, you start whacking ammo bins, you run the risk of having an ammo explosion, which is going to cause tremendous amounts of damage. Okay, so often than not, simply stripping weapons off a mech is one thing, blowing up its ammo can be another. It's volatile, it's good fun, and it looks very showy when you do it right. Okay, you can factor in these weaknesses and you can build around them. Like for instance, I took the ammunition from my AC-10, I moved it from the right torso to the center torso. Meaning if I lose the arm, well, I'm not going to lose the ammunition. It just means that it doesn't explode enough. It's a bit more security. With practice, you'll learn where all these vulnerabilities are, and you'll learn how to patch and build around them. At the same time, you need to study the enemy on the battlefield to find out where his weaknesses are and how best to go about fucking it up. Right, let's go and have a look at the mech warriors themselves.
Receiving you.
Hey, I kept my Decker. Sorry, it's been a running joke since this game come out that Decker is the first person to die. He's in the weakest mech at the start of the campaign, and a lot of people don't use him properly, and he gets turned into paste quite quickly. Anyway, so yeah, basically, pilots have 4 major skills. Okay, they have gunnery, piloting, guts, and tactics. Now, what are these skills? Well, gunnery kind of says it all, really. It's the ability to shoot something. Right? The higher the gunnery skill, the more chance it's going to hit. Piloting is where it starts getting more fun. Piloting is the ability to control the mech. The higher the piloting, the less chance of it falling over when it's taking damage. Alright. Also as well, it means that you can, with enough piloting skill, you can run further, you have a better chance of hitting someone in the face at close range melee, and you can build evasion better. Alright, I'll explain how that works in a bit. Guts basically is the stamina or the strength of the pilot. Hang on a second.
Training complete.
There we go. Guts basically increases the health pool of the pilot, and it also reduces the amount of time it needs to be in the medbay if the pilot takes damage. Now, pilots, like I said, are squishy. You can hurt them in several ways. For instance, if you hit the head, you will injure the pilot. If you cleave the head off, you'll kill the pilot. If you knock the mech over, you'll injure the pilot. If you destroy a torso segment, either like the left or the right torso, you'll injure the pilot. So if you have a big mech shooting at a little mech and you basically hit it so hard that you blow off both left and right torso and a leg, the chances are the pilot's going to die. because he'll take damage from the left torso exploding, the right torso exploding, and the legs exploding, so he'll fall over and take damage. Most pilots only come with 3 pips to begin with, unless they've been trained. So chances are, you do that, you've basically turned the guy into paste, and this is a good thing, because it means that then you can salvage the mech. And salvage is good! Okay. Tactics is a little bit more interesting, because tactics is for called shots. Okay, now when I said called shots are important, they really are, because it allows you to specifically target a part of the mech. If it falls over or it shuts down, you call shot it, and with a higher tactic, you have more chance of hitting that point that you exactly want perfectly, which is really good. Alright. It also means that you get a reduction to indirect fire. Now, indirect fire applies to missiles. Basically, if you can't see the mech, but you've got a visual on it, either through another pilot, you can arc missiles over objects through the sky, and basically they hit the enemies dead on. You get a penalty against it because basically you're taking a blind shot at the guy. But with high enough tactics, this isn't so much of an issue. Okay? Now, you'll notice that I've got several icons here. In fact, actually, it's better if I show you 2-strike. Okay. Every pilot has 2 skills in each field. Okay, you got 2 skills in gunnery, 2 skills in piloting, 2 skills in guts, and 2 skills in tactics. As you level up, okay, you will reach a point where you can take on one of these skills. Like, for instance, gunnery, the first skill you get is multi-targeting, which allows you to shoot at 2 things simultaneously, well, up to 3 things, sorry, in your firing arc. Okay, piloting gives you extra evasion charges, alright? I'll explain this as we play the skirmish. Guts allows you to bulwark, where basically you automatically gain guarded. Again, I'll explain this during the skirmish that we're going to play. And tactics allows you to do what we call a sensor lock, which allows you to remove evasion charges off a mech. Now, mechs build evasion when they run or they move around, and obviously the higher evasion, the harder it's going to be to hit. But the same goes for the enemy. If the enemy's running straight at you, it's going to be hard to hit. If you sensor lock the bastard, you take some of those evasion charges away, making it easier for your guys to hit him. Again, it's always good to bring a scout along with high tactics, okay? However, as you level up these pilots, you can only pick 2 skills, okay? So for instance, I could go with multi-targeting and evasive movement. Once I've selected those 2, then I won't be able to select these here. In fact, you can see that if I look at Decker, there's no skill in guts and there's no skill in gunnery, okay? But I can keep on leveling those skills up so they're better in those fields. However, once I reach a certain point, I can choose a mastery skill, which is my 3rd and master skill. And I can only choose it from one of the 2 fields that I've got skills for, okay? Now, master skills are very, very strong, and you don't want to lose pilots who have got master skills. For instance, if I have a look at the master skills here, we have breaching shot, which basically means that it doesn't matter what cover or state the enemy's in, I'm going to hit it. So even if it braces, it won't take reduced damage. If it's in cover, it won't take reduced damage. I can basically smack it in the face and it will feel it. However, I can only use 1 gun. It'll be the biggest gun I've got, but it will fucking reach you and you won't like it. Piloting master skill is Ace Pilot. Basically, I can shoot and move. If you've played XCOM, you have 2 action points. Okay, you can move and shoot, or you can dash, which uses up 2 action points. You get the general idea. It's very XCOM, but it's not XCOM. As stupid as this sounds, that's the best way to look at this game. Alright, Ace Pilot basically means that you can fire and then move. It's a good skill to have, especially for strikers. Guts is Juggernaut. Basically, if you run up and you smack someone in the face, you knock your target back an initiative phase. Now, initiative is a little bit more of a complex system to explain. It's the only one I can really show you. If I sit here and try and explain it to you verbally, it won't make sense. Okay, but if I show you how it works, it should. And tactics basically means that your master tactician, your pilot can move in initiative phase, which it's not designed for. Okay, so that's basically your pilots, and these are really, really important. You've got to look after your pilots. All right, if they're dead, they're fucking worthless. Right, I tell you what, we've done enough. Jesus Christ, it's been 19 minutes, 20 minutes already. Whoa! Let's get this show on the road. Now, I'm nice. I went off and I actually set up a couple of lances very quickly so I can show you this in skirmish. This is going to be very one-sided, kind of like punching a child in a crib. But hang on. However, the purpose of the exercise is to show you how the game plays and how best to go about exploiting it. Single player. Oh.
Welcome, Commander.
Oh, I can stiff me old age. Right, let's set this to unlimited because reasons. Mid-lance and target practice. Now, I built these lances very quickly. Okay, basically we've got a good lance consisting of two medium mechs, a light scout, and a support striker. All right, and we've got an enemy lance consisting of 2 lights and a medium. Okay, and basically we're going to show you how to go about, killing these things, and we'll do it as best as we can.
Commencing deployment. Mech warriors, prepare for combat.
Oh, that takes me back to Mech Commander. Preparing for combat. Ooh. Alright, begin.
Command interface initiated.
Now, obviously, when you play the campaign, you're going to have contracts, and your contracts will have different objectives, but ultimately it's going to involve shooting someone in the face. So I want to teach you how best to go about shooting someone in the face, so you can really shoot them in the face. And they will feel it. Right, now then. This looks really complicated, but it isn't. Okay. When you first start, right, and you've got no enemies on the screen, you are in what we call Initiative 5. Basically, the initiative system is a way of moving. Basically, it means all of the mechs move according to their initiative value. So, for instance, if I had Initiative 4, alright, you start off at 5, then you go 4, 3, 2, then 1, and then once you're at 1, you loop all the way back through to 5 again. Alright? It's easier to show you this when we have enemy contacts, okay? But for now, let's just focus on moving stuff around. Now, what we can do is you can see our 4 pilots here. Okay, we've got Witness, Ozone, Apex, and Wildfire. And we have 4 mechs. We have a Commando, which is a light scout mech. We have an Orion, or as it's more commonly referred to as the Onion. We have a Hunchback, which is a close-range heavy hitter. Seriously, fucking proper punching job, Mike Tyson-style punch. And then we've got a Catapult, which is a long-range support mech with lots of missiles that fly everywhere and fire Aussie missiles. So what we've got is we now have 4 mechs. Now we can choose to move these anywhere we want. As you move around the map, okay, you will see that there are dots everywhere. These are points that you can move to. There are dots which are coloured differently, and these are usually environmentally based. So for instance, over here you can see that this dot is a forest, it's green, okay? And it has attributes that benefit your mechs. For instance, forest reduces movement cover and spotting distance, okay? But it provides 25% damage reduction against ranged attacks. It doesn't stack with guarded, alright? I'll explain guarded in a minute. But this is good. You want to be keeping your mechs running between cover, alright? Now you'll notice, as I move outwards, little chevrons appear next to the mouse. And these are what we call evasion charges. Basically, the further and the faster you run, the more evasion charges you build. It means you're going to be harder to hit. You can still have a chance to be hit, but it's a lot harder. So if I wanted to get this Commando somewhere fast, I'd charge him full speed, and this would make him harder to hit for the enemy. There's a chance he might be hit, but there's a good chance he won't. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run this guy into the trees. Now, because I've moved him to the trees, I get this big cone. This is my firing angle, okay, and I can hit in a big area. The firing cone is built up into three layers. You've got your short range, your medium range, and then your long range. You also have a big blue line running around the outside. This is what we call your sensor ring. Okay, any enemy mechs that pop up inside here, you will see. Okay, you won't have a visual on them, but you know they're there. In the beta, a high tactics would enable you to see what mechs it was, but I'm pretty certain it doesn't do that in the final game, which is a shame, really. But anyway, So yeah, we'll move him into the trees, and we'll point him in this direction.
Got it.
And off he runs.
Aye, aye.
We shall move Apex forward, and we'll do the same, but we'll sprint into these trees here. Now you'll notice that the mechs themselves actually now have a little shield on them. This represents it's got partial cover. It's very, like I said, it's very XCOM. You've got partial cover and you've got full cover. Now you can't get full cover by simply running into something like trees. Full cover comes from bracing. The idea is that you sit there and you basically say, come fucking at me, motherfucker, and you sit there and you shrug it off. You get 50% damage reduction. That's good, okay? But it means that you're going to use an action point. It's great for if you're in a bit of a tight spot and you're worried that you're going to get shot up at. For now, running him forward, sprinting has used up both of my action points, and we're in trees. We've got partial cover and we've got 3 evasion charges, so he's in a good spot at the moment.
Yes, Commander.
Let us move the onion.
Copy that, Commander.
Now then, this catapult has jump jets, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it fly. Fly, my pretty! You can see the arcing angle, alright, and I can jump in a big distance. I can specify the angle as well on how I want to land. Now, the firing angle, if you run a great distance, you're going to have very little maneuverability for actually changing your firing angle, but with jump jets you can change your direction any way you want. It's really helpful, especially if you're in a fight and you want to get out and protect the vulnerable part of your mech. For now, we'll just stick him up here.
10-4.
Now, he's not in cover, but he's got high evasive charges, so he's a hard target to hit at the moment. Because I've used one action point, I can use another action. So, for instance, I could now shoot an enemy, or I can brace. Bracing puts me into a state of guarded and entrenched. Okay, guarded, basically, you puff up your chest and you stick it, you say, come on at me. You reduce 50% of incoming damage, okay, from the front and side. Entrenched basically reduces stability damage. Remember when I said that mechs will fall over if they take too much stability damage? Again, this is due to the pilot's skill. If you are taking stability damage and it's looking like you're going to get, possibly tip over, bracing is a great way of getting rid of it. You will remove some stability damage just normally, but it's nowhere near enough. Sometimes bracing is the best way of getting rid of it. Bracing stacks with evasion, so if you've got to go somewhere fast...
Confirming new bogey.
Oh, here we go.
Another blip on my screen.
Alright, now we've come into contact with the enemy. The game is now going to play properly. And you can see at the top of the screen, I've got this big thing come up at the top. This here is the initiative system. Alright. We were in Initiative 5 because we didn't have enemies on screen, which meant we could send mechs everywhere, as far as the eye could see. However, now we've come into contact with the enemy, we now have to play in phases, or initiative phases. Now, the initiative phases are built on the class of mech. Alright. Initiative 4 is your light mechs. Initiative 3 is your medium. 2 is your heavies, and 1 is your assaults. Okay. Now, looking at the pips, I can see that we have 2 enemy light mechs and 1 medium mech. Now, these enemy pips will only appear if you see the mech on sensors. Bear in mind that you can still be shot by a mech you can't see on sensors if a mech is using it as a spotter. It's like squad sight in XCOM. Basically, a mech has line of sight on me, I can arc missiles at it. It's a long shot, but it will hit. I can see now that I've got one light mech available to me, and the enemy has 2 light mechs. What I can do is, I can move my light mech. Now if I wanted to, I could run into a different position, or I could shoot at the enemy. I don't really want to do this. I've got another option called reserve. The idea is, I say, you know what? I don't want to move him. I'll keep him back and let him play in another initiative phase. So I can basically bring a light mech to play with the mediums. I can do the same with mediums if I wanted to. I could reserve them all the way down to phase 1. So basically, I've got my lights, my mediums, my heavies, and my assaults all fighting at the same time, which is great for if you want to overwhelm an opponent completely. The nice thing about reserving is you keep any evasion charges you've got. So if I reserve him now, he's simply going to just stay as he is. So he'll stay in cover and he'll keep the evasion charges. So he's still going to be harder to hit. We can do this as well because the enemy, we can see what the enemy's doing. Sometimes I want the enemy to make the first move so I can best see about how to counter it. In fact, you know what? We're going to do that now. We're going to reserve. So he moves down to initiative phase 3. Right, and because the 2 light mechs are now going to fire, well, they get to play in initiative phase 4. We just have to suck it up and wait for that to be done. Alright, now you see my hunchback, he took a few shots. Nothing too serious, but it was enough to tickle. Okay. Right-clicking on a mech will bring up what we call the paper doll. Now, the paper doll basically is a complete display of your mech. You've got an overall of its status. The dark grey line is your internal structure, the white line is your armour. You can see your loadout on the right, so I can see I've got an AC-20 assault cannon, auto cannon. I've got 2 medium lasers and a small laser. I can see my armour status, and mousing over it I can see what armour I've got. So for instance, I took a bit of a heavy hit there in the left torso, so I've lost 25 points of armour, so my left torso is vulnerable. If I keep the mouse over it, it will actually tell me what's in that part of the mech. So I can see, looking at this now, I've got 2 tons of AC-20 ammo. If I keep on taking damage in that part of the mech, it's going to be open, meaning that I'm running the risk of an ammo explosion. If I do that, I'm going to injure the pilot, I'm going to lose all the ammo, and I'm going to lose the left arm, because, well, basically the left arm can't hang on to anything, it doesn't exist. So your left and right torsos are very important, but they're also a great target to be shooting at. Now, the enemy has moved, so there are no light mechs to move. So we move down to initiative phase 3, which is where we're at now. And we can see that I have 2 mechs to move, and he has 1. And you will take turns moving your mechs, okay? The game alternates depending upon who moved last. So I may move a mech, then he moves a mech, then I may move another mech. Or he moves first, then I move mine. It alternates between turns. Alright? So you can see that I now have 2 mechs available at the bottom. I've got Witness in my commando, which is my scout guy, and I've got Apex, which is my heavy hitter. Now, I've got 2 light mechs in front of me, okay, and you can see from their evasion charges that they're going to be quite difficult to hit. This commando has got 3 evasion charges, whereas the Spider has 4. If I right-click on him, I can see how the mech is built. By simply looking over and mousing, I can look for exploitation or weaknesses to look at. So I can see that this mech is particularly vulnerable on, well, let's be honest, at 30 points of armor and 30 structure, it's not really that strong. But on bigger mechs, you want to find a weakness you can exploit. However, I now want to kill it. But those evasion charges are going to work against me, so I've got to do something about that. With Witness, he has Sensor Lock. He's a tactician. Okay, so we're going to use Sensor Lock, and as long as the mech is within the sensor ring, you see that blue ring in the back distance there? I can Sensor Lock it. So what we'll do is we'll Sensor Lock this guy. So he's Sensor Locked. He's lost 2 evasion charges. Hang on a second. Okay, because I moved my mech, he then moves his, and now I move mine again. Okay, which is my initiative phase 3 mech. So at the moment, the commando has got Sensor Lock on it, which is what the 2 little chevrons on next to its number are. so it's easier to hit. So what I can do is I can bring Apex in and take a shot at it. Now, if I'm within firing distance, you can see these red lines. Now, the red lines indicate line of sight to the enemy. Basically, I can shoot it at that. It also means that the enemy can shoot at me as well. Okay, so I have to bear this in mind. If I was to move over here, you'll notice that one of the lines is broken. Okay, the middle line to the commando is broken. Basically, it's a partial shot. I'm not going to get it. Alright? If it's a white dotted line, it means he can see me, but I can't shoot at him. What I'll do is I'm going to take a shot at the commando. So, we go to attack. And basically, we're going to shoot it head on. If you look at the paper tiger at the top, you can see this red outline. Sorry, not paper tiger, the paper doll. You can see this red outline, which indicates where it is I'm going to hit. Depending on where it is I'm standing will depend upon where I hit. Now, the system shows a front, a back, a left and a right, but it's more detailed than that, and it actually does take into account minute angles. Okay, so if I was standing over to its left, in fact, let's do that. Yeah, let's move over to here. Okay. You can see from the ring at its feet that I'm going to be hitting it in the face, but because of the way how the line is reaching it, I'm going to be hitting it on the right side. So basically, I'm going to potentially rip the arm off, and I'm going to potentially rip the right torso in half. So you need to bear this in mind when you're moving, especially when you want enemies, and you've got enemies who have got weaknesses that you want to exploit. Now, the same goes for your mechs as well. Okay, depending upon where you position them will depend upon where you get hit. So if I move him here, okay, and I set him up exactly here, I'm exposing my right torso to him. In fact, let's do that now. So there's one action point. But if you look at the line, right, it's pointing to my right torso. And my right torso has the AC-20, which is the biggest gun I've got. So that's opening up a vulnerability to the enemy. So ideally, I want to kill the enemy before it can do that. So let's just blow something up. You little man, die.
Taking the shot.
Miss. You suck. That's Battletech, baby. Okay. So all of our Initiative 3 mechs have moved. So we now move down to Initiative 2, which is the heavies. This is where the good stuff really comes out. So I missed with the big AC-20 gun, but I did hit him with a couple of lasers, and you can see on the paper doll I've done some damage. I've ripped his armor off, so the right side of him is quite weak and quite vulnerable. Now I can exploit this, and I will do exactly that. So I will take my catapult, which is currently sitting up here, and I will jump him. Let's see. That's not a great shot. Actually, let's jump him over here and do an indirect shot on him.
Lift it off.
Now you can see how the firing line is a big curve leading all the way to the target. This shows it's an indirect line of fire. So only missiles can do indirect fire. Now, because I'm aiming a little over to his left, I'm going to hit that right side. And I'm potentially going to destroy all the arm, the torsos, and everything else. And I'm basically going to fuck that mech up something great. I've got a 75% chance to hit. This is good. Holding my mouse over, I can see all the attributes of that shot. So I can see that it's arm mounted. There's a height difference, so on and so forth. But I'm seeing a nice big number at the end, 75%. This is good. You know what? Fuck him up. Right. Now you'll see that because we hit him from the left side, we've damaged all of his right torso here. So at the moment, he's down to gooey internals. There's a risk now, if I keep on hitting him here, he's going to have an ammo explosion, because that's where his SRM ammo is. And that's going to make a lovely fucking mess. Also as well, because we've hit him quite hard in that direction, we've also weakened his center torso. So he's quite soft and vulnerable now. You'll also notice as well there's this yellow bar which is building up underneath. This is stability damage. Because I've hit him really hard, and I've kept on hitting him hard, he's built up a lot of stability. Now, the white point is a threshold. If he goes over that, he will become unsteady. When a mech is unsteady, it can't sprint. It can't build evasion charges properly, and basically it's primed for falling over. You need to keep on hitting it to fill up the bar to knock it over. This is where the initiative system comes into play with reserving. So what I want to do is, if I have I can reserve a mech down so that I've got 2 mechs in a phase. I can knock him over and then bring the other mech in to hit him while he's on the ground. With a bit of practice, you'll start learning how to use the initiative system to take advantage of the enemy, and we'll try and do that here, but it depends on how the game's going to play out.
Commander?
For now, I just want to shoot this bastard in the mouth. Let's move the onion forward. Now you can see that I've got really poor line of sight here. I've only got line of angle to one machine. However, if I bring him here, I've got an indirect shot.
Moving out.
So let's do an indirect shot on this guy. Now, because I'm hitting the wrong side of him, all of his heavy armor is exposed. You know, I'm going to be hitting his heavy armor. I might hit the other sections, but there's a good chance I probably won't. But let's have a go anyway. See what we can do. Oh!
That hit
There we go.
good.
He's unsteady, so there's a risk now I can knock him on his ass. He won't be able to sprint either until he braces. Right, so we can see now that this commando is in a bit of a state. He's lost his right arm, he's lost his torso, he's got, well, SRM damage, he's got no SRM4, and he's got a medium laser. So he's in a state, and he's only got 11 hit points left, so I could just kill him now. However, what I want to do is I'm going to hold back on my scout guy. I can send him in now and shoot up the guy if I wanted to, but I'm going to use the initiative system to get a drop on the heavy Hunchback. Now, the Hunchback's a big, nasty mech. And remember, when we looked at the Hunchback earlier, it has a weakness in the right torso. All of its weapons are there. My dude over here is set up perfectly for hitting that right torso. But if he moves, I'll want to sensor lock him down so he doesn't have any evasion charges, so my hits are definitely going to hit. So what I'll do is I'll reserve my scout.
Holding action, Commander.
So he's moved down to Initiative 3. Now the mechs have had their turn. We're now moved down to Initiative 3. So I now have Witness and Apex to play with. The enemy also has evasion as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock him down.
I hear you.
With a sensor lock. He may move, he may not. But that's going to stay until the end of the phase. He missed. This is good. So the sensor lock has kind of worked, but it kind of hasn't. Probably could have waited. If he'd moved before I did, I would have had a better chance of that, but there was no real way of me dealing with it. I could have shot first, like Han, but I thought, you know what? I'll try this. Didn't work. That's fine. We're going to work around it.
Awaiting orders.
Now, I want to destroy that torso. So what I'll do is I'll point it in a way where I can get the best hit. Unfortunately, he's got 2 evasion charges. At the same time, I don't want to expose my right torso, because I'll expose my autocannon. So what I'll do is I'll point the mech in this direction. So if he does fire, he's going to hit the left side of me.
On my way.
Now the left side does have ammunition in there, but it's got more armor. So well, I think it has anyway. I haven't looked too carefully, but let's just wing this. Fire!
Confirmed.
There we go. So we've done what we set out to achieve. We've basically seriously damaged the autocannon. I mean, look at that. You know, we've ripped the armor off. We're down to the internal structure. The AC-20 is primed to be destroyed, and that's what I want. You'll notice as well that my catapult is also set up over here, so he's in a great position to rip that right torso to pieces.
Skipper.
So what we'll do is we'll jump him. Let's have a look at the numbers first. So if I move him there, it's only a 70%. That's not that good. That's a 70% again. That's an 80 with a 40. Now the LRMs are basically 15 shots at 4 damage apiece. It's not much, but it's enough to rip him to pieces. You'll notice as well we also have a new color of field on the grid. Rough terrain. I can stand here, but I'll take extra stability damage. So, and I've also got a defense against melee attacks. So if someone runs up to me, he's basically going to have unsure footing as well. But it's a risk. Do I want to take it? Well, not particularly, no. So let's see what we can do number-wise. That's 70%. That's not direct fire. You know what? I'm going to just move him a little higher up. Good old chicken. And even though the angle is registering as a front hit, it's angled, so I am actually going to hit his right torso, so I can rip that AC-20 to bits. Do it. Oh, he's unsteady. Now, this is pretty good. He's unsteady, which means I can potentially knock him on his ass. That right torso has taken some damage, but it didn't do the damage that I wanted to. But I'm going to exploit the fact that he's unsteady and push him over onto his ass.
Standing by.
I'm going to move up. Now, when I said pilot skills are very important, I meant it. Okay, this pilot has an ability called multi-target, so I can shoot 3 targets at once. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take advantage of that. Now, of these 3 targets, this guy will fall over if I belt him with missiles. Alright. This guy over here is prime for an AC-10 in the face. Alright, he's got 1 evasion charge on him, but I can really hurt him with that. So what we'll do, multi-target, we'll target him first, and then we'll target this guy second. We'll change the fire, so we can specify target A, target A, target A, all the way up to B. And just shoot.
Roger.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. He's dead. Now he's fallen over. This has primed him for a called shot. Now he's going to stay fallen over until it's his turn to move again. So I've got up until initiative 3. Sorry, no, what am I saying? When a pilot falls over, he goes down initiative level. Okay, so he won't move on initiative 3, he'll move on initiative 2. So that means that my medium mechs can come in and have a fucking right swing at him, which is what I want.
Waiting on you, Commander.
Let's do another sensor lock on this guy. If you think this is slow, you should have tried the pen and paper version. My god, it used to take hours. Thankfully though, a good fight on this will last you around half an hour. Right, so we're in a good spot at the moment. This guy's down, he's on his ass, he's ready for a called shot. Okay, and I want that torso. So we'll position this guy into a better place. Okay. What's this moonwalking shit? Point the enemy and kill it. There we go. The guy's just showing off. And now we can call shot on the enemy. Now remember, call shot only comes about when you knock an enemy down or he overheats and shuts down. In the campaign, you can spend morale to do a call shot, but I don't want to cover that right now. Let's focus on getting the combat out of the way first. So you can see this guy, he's fucked, he's lying on his ass. I've got a 28% chance to kill him. If I had a high enough tactics skill, this would have been even better. But you know what? Let's just do it and see what we get. So I've targeted the right torso with a big AC-10.
Copy
Shoot.
that.
Oh! That's a nasty hit. And he's going to get up, and he's now in a world of trouble. Because I've destroyed both torsos. So he's got nothing. His threat is next to nothing. Oh look, you did nothing. So now I can rip him to pieces. However, what I'm now going to do is I'm going to get a call. I'm going to shoot this guy right in the face.
I'm here.
I'm hoping I can get a better shot. Alright. Okay. If I move my onion here, I can get a rear angle shot on this guy, so I can punch her right through the rear armor and kill it. Remember, flanking shots are the best. Sometimes it's good to try and pincer the enemy, so when it faces one thing, you get to shoot it in the back. This is cool. Move the guy up.
Order acknowledged.
Now, I am a little concerned about the onion because it's got a bit of heat on it, which is this red bar underneath. You can see on the paper doll that it's a good shot. You can see from the flashing bar on the bottom left of the amount of heat I'm going to generate. That's going to be pushing me very close to my threshold, but I'm still good. What I can do is I can look down my weapon list and see, hang on a second, which one of these numbers isn't that good? Well, the SRM4 is at 65%, it does generate quite a bit of heat. If I turn it off, you'll notice the heat is there's less heat generated. So it's going to put me in better stead later on. If I wanted to, I could move within the water to cool myself down even more so I can keep on shooting a lot harder and a lot more faster.
Confirmed.
Oh. He still survived. 4 hit points. Are you shitting me?
What are your orders?
Fine. Alright, let's do a... Right, now I've got a problem here. My catapult is very hot. You can see from this flashing bar, if I now try and shoot the guy, I'm going to potentially overheat. So I need to now turn off weapons, or I can cool him off. Now, to cool him off, just stop firing. Okay, if I brace, I will cool down considerably. But again, it means I won't be able to shoot the dude. Well, I want to shoot the dude, so... What I will do is... I will turn off my medium lasers, and I will aim at this guy. And you can see now I'm still well under my heat threshold, so I'm not going to overheat now, which is good. I'm also going to hurt the spider.
Affirmative.
And hurt is the word! Ooh, hello. Now the spider used its jump jets to jump over me and shoot me in the back. However, his aim is shit and he didn't do much damage. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to sensor lock with my scout again. And I want to lock that spider down.
Got a lock.
Oh, you want to play Rock'em Sock'em, do you? Now Now my pilot is unsteady at the moment, so I'm going to get a penalty to aiming, and it's all kind of things. It's really bad. So what I'll do is I'll back him off.
Roger that.
And I'll brace. Unfortunately, this Apex's piloting skills are shit, so she has problems in keeping the mech upright, which is why the pip is so low down. So if I brace, I cool the mech, and I'm in a better position. We're now down to initiative phase 2, so the heavies are coming out now.
I'm receiving you.
Wildfire is... The onion is getting hot now, so what I want to do is I want to cool it off. So we'll run into the water.
I'm there.
And we'll cool it off. So now when I fire, I'm going to do less heat, which is good. And I want this guy in the back. There we go.
10-4.
There we go. He's dead.
Looks like I'll need a new target.
Now the spider's still up. He's the only target we've now left got to kill. This is what we want to do. So, we can see he's in a bit of a... Well, he's not in that much of a state, but he is soft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something really ballsy. I'm going to do what we call a DFA, or Death from Above. Basically, you take the jump jet on a mech, and you basically jump on the fucker. Now, when you go to melee someone, you can specify where it is you want to hit. So for instance, if I land here, I will potentially damage his left side. If I jump here, I will damage his rear side. Okay, this is the same when you go to punch someone. You can specify the angle of the hit. So if you wanted to, you could hit the left side of the mech, you could punch the right side, you could punch him in the face, or you could just kick him in the ass. I want to kick this guy in the ass. So what I'll do is I will jump here. So click on the mech first, then specify where it is you want to jump. Okay, the angle, the arrow shows you the direction of the impact. And you'll see that the shield here, even though he's in cover, it's flashing orange, meaning that the cover won't work. Cover only covers you from the front and the sides. That's fine. So we'll just jump on his fucking head. I think he's dead.
I need a new target.
Mission successful.
And that's how you fight. Remember, look at the enemy, see how it's built, look for weaknesses, vulnerabilities, position your mechs in such a way that you take advantage of them, like we did with the Hunchback. We killed its right torso. Actually, we did more than kill its right torso, but you could see where we were going with softening up the right side to try and get rid of the autocannon. DFA is a very powerful melee move, but it's a double-edged sword. You will potentially damage your legs, and you can see here from the DFA, I literally destroyed all the armor on the legs. So it's really something you've got to... You know, there really was a price difference between it, wasn't it? 13 million difference. But yeah, that's Battletech Combat. Hopefully you've learned something from this, okay, and you can do a better job. Do try and keep Decker alive if you can. If you can keep him to the point where you've got the Argo, then you're doing really well. So, yeah, but... Anyway, you know what? I'm going to go disappear and make another cup of tea because I'm thirsty, and I've talked for far too long. Crazy, isn't it? But anyway, like I said, you should now have a better idea of how battle mechs work, how pilots work, how best to go about using them on the battlefield to kick the shit out of things, okay? Use cover, use speed, use evasion charges. Keep a scout on hand, you know, scout the enemy, lock them down with sensors. Use the advantage of missiles, which do lots of stability damage, knock them over on their ass, do targeted shots, and just basically have fun. And you'd be surprised at how good it is. I mean, you haven't laughed until you've ripped the head off an Atlas well, we used to do it with an AC-10 back in the beta, but they kind of stopped that because that was a little op as fuck. It's quite funny having an urban mech destroy a 100-ton behemoth, but oh David and Goliath. Anyway, I'm out of here. I'm gonna go render this and make another brew. Catch you all later.